Hi everybody, it's the old Duffer again. Next project on from doing the little Chinese tractor owned by the same people. This is a C105 wheelhorse built in the 80s at some point. So it's 40 years old, 10 horse Kohler, and they did all versions of this right up to the big flat twin Wisconsins, I think, on the bigger ones. But these are the old 8-speed with high, 4 gears, high and low ratio. Probably not as quick as a more modern tractor, but they're built like a battleship. I mean, this has done 40 years of service, and other than starter motor burning out and a few other bits and bobs wanting doing, it's as good as gold. We only ever see it when there's a problem, and I don't think we've seen it for 3 years. We're trying to work it out. But so we've got the deck off, it's got deck issues, starter motor's off, because it's toast. We can get one in the States for about 150 quid, one here for about 80 quid. Pattern one, so they've been left it to me to decide which one we'd like to fit. So we haven't ordered one yet, but yeah, basically solid as a rock. Engines on AV mounts, they run lovely, these. Somebody fitted a new starter solenoid, but the starter motor was already toast, so didn't quite go far enough. But I've got the deck off. We come over here onto the bench. I can show you what we're doing with the deck. One or two issues we have with a lot of mowers that come in like this, because obviously a lot of the parts are no longer available. Well, they are in the States, funnily enough, for these things, but this is 40 years old and it's getting a bit rough now, and I have repaired it a couple of times. But basically it's solid as a rock, and there's a guy on eBay who makes the deck, so you can buy a replacement in much thicker gauge material deck and swap all your bits over, and hey presto, you're back in business. But with these pressed tin pulleys a lot of these mowers use, Countax and Westwood and all of them, when the bearing goes, you're knackered. And if you can't get that pulley, which you can't for these now, certainly not in the UK, what do you do? So what I ended up doing, I found this, I do it for a lot of them, I don't know if you can see on the camera, where it's pressed over, I machine that rolled over piece so it becomes open, and then I can pull the bearing out, push a new bearing in, and I'll make a cap that sits over to hold the bearing in with 4 stainless screws, a little bit of Loctite. And this is 3 years ago I did these ones, and they're fine. And it's a 6203 bearing, which is a common or garden single row ball bearing. I can make these out of solid with a circular to hold the bearing. There's no point, just that cap fixes it. I did both of these these go on the front to guide the belts around the front of the tractor, and we have a problem with the idler that sits in here. This has got a bit clunky, and funny enough, as I try to push the insert out, it's not as clunky as it was, but I'm not leaving it to chance, so we're going to do the same, and I will film how I do it, and we're going to have to make the little insert to go in there, because that isn't going to come out. So I've actually deformed it slightly because I put it in a press, and after 9 tons I thought, yeah, that ain't going to move, so we'll just make a new one. So that's what we've got to do on this. There's nothing wrong with the rest of the deck, and it's strong enough it'll do another season, maybe 2, and then we'll look at it by then. But yeah, we'll get set up on the lathe, and I'll show you how we sort these problems out. Alright, so old Duffer again. Wheelhorse jockey pulley or tensioner pulley on a wheelhorse deck. The bearing in there is gone. And it's a 6203 2RS, 2 rubber seal bearing. That's one of them. But it's inside this pressed together pulley, which I'm going to machine off where it's peened over, so we can push the bearing out, and we'll put a new bearing in, and I've got to make a little top hat insert that goes in there, because that won't come out either. And then I'll make a little cap that goes over from this side with 3 or 4 little screws and stainless screws, a little bit of Loctite, holds the bearing in position, and it means you can carry on using that pulley. I have made complete pulleys out of solid billet before, if it's got destroyed because the bearing's got a whole lot's gone clatter, 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 and destroyed itself, and we've had to start again. But there's nothing wrong with the pulley, it's just a bearing that's gone. So, and of course it's obsolete because this is 40 years old. So, oh, that's the end of your mower, is it, Bob? So what we're going to do, I'm going to, hopefully you can hear me over the lathe, but we're just going to check all that front rolled edge off, just to expose the bearing, so we can push it out, get your teeth in. So, I'm not taking too big a cut because it can fly out, and it's a little bit embarrassing on that one. I'm not running coolant because it goes everywhere and you won't be able to sit on it. So small cuts at a time, so I only want to break in to where the bearing is. I don't want to go any deeper. Let's see what we got. We're very nearly there. That's it. Yeah, very nearly all the way out. Once you tickle more, you can see the bearing face starting to appear. It's got a bit warm because I'm not using coolant, but I'll just touch it a bit more. There we go. We can now push the bearing out. As simple as that. Right, I'm going to press the bearing out. Put my hand under it and try and catch it. There we go. Whee! One knackered bearing. There is a little top hat insert in there. It's bonded in there. It won't come out. It's made of steel, so I've got to make that part and press into this bearing once I've fitted this into here. So we'll just pop this in. Put that back in there like that. He says. Let that go up a bit. And I found what we do with our good old sockets, eh? Don't do this at home. Right, pop this one in. This is where it's going to slide off and not do what I want. You monkey, come here. Okay. Bottomed out. Yeah. So there you go, one new bearing in the hole. I'll show you one I did earlier in good Blue Peter fashion. Over here, this is one of the other pulleys on it. There's two of these that go around the front, that guide the belt around the front, and the same thing happened. The bearings went, oh, you can't get those. Oh, really? Okay. So there you go, the 4 screws, and there's a little cap. This sticking out the back doesn't make a hoot's worth of difference, and the same with this. Once this is, it'll sit that way up on the machine with the top hat sitting through, and having a cap on it won't make a sod's worth of difference. So the next job is to make the insert, and then I'll make a cap. Right, then we've got to make our new little top hat doodad that goes in there. Now this is a 20mm there, it's 7mm deep, and the whole thing, if I remember rightly, I know it's got a 9.5mm hole in the middle, it's 22mm tall. So the bearing depth is 12mm, and it's got a couple sitting at the top. So I've called it 15mm. It's not that important, that piece. That is the critical piece. So we're going to turn down 15mm. I'll do slightly over because this lathe hasn't got a DRO on it, like the big one. And then I'll face it off to the right depth as we go. So fairly straightforward. Right, just touching off our 0. Again, I'm not going to run any coolant, so you can see, and I'm going to do just eye it up right now because I'm going to face it off anyway. Well, as long as I cut enough, doesn't matter. Now this machine is metric, that is the deal. So I'm just going to go in. I need to take off 3mm. I'm just going in hard at the moment just to get rid of it, just rough it out. And I want to make it an interference fit, so I'm going to come in just over 17mm on the finished diameter. So I'm just roughing out at the moment. Where are we? There we go. Let's crank it up a gear, as they say. And have a measure, see what we got. So this isn't mega accurate. As long as it's an interference fit, it's good enough. Put 7.1 up. Okay, that's right. So, okay, that. I'll give it some. You don't want to take much now. Give us very close to diameter. Right, but now let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. It's just a tad up. So that'll be a press fit on there. So now we want our length, which I said was 15mm. Let's see what we actually are at. 18.9, so we're only 3.9 up. Well, that's all right. Fairly straightforward. You crank this back a bit, do it on here, on the cross line. Right. Just touch off. That's my 0. Knock that off. You've got to take 3.9mm off, so nothing very interesting. It's just bringing it down to size. If I had a DRO on it, I could have done it on, you know, the saddle carriage, but this one hasn't got DRO, so that's 2, right? So I normally run coolant with all my jobs, but you won't be able to see a thing, so we're doing it without. It's 3.5. That should be it. I'm going to put a chanter on the edge. Don't do this at home, but I've been doing it for decades, so I'm not going to stop now. But if you slip, your hands over the foil can end up in the trap drawers. And that's not a good day out. So, let's see what we got. 15.17, yeah, I'll buy that. It's a lawnmower, it's plus or minus a gate post. Right, 9.5mm hole in the middle. 9.5mm drill bit. This is that one. Here we go. Tail stop chock. We'll drill the hole and then part off the finished job at the right length. And we have a pilot hole down the middle, which is kind of handy. Did I say our total depth was? What was it? 20mm. Yeah, 22. 22mm. So I need to make sure I drill the hole about 25. So when I part it off, it's all the way through. So we'll set that up on there. I am going to use a bit of coolant on this because the drill will get hot and it might bite in the right, it's all set to 0. So we need a 25 mil. You can now get a thing called through drills where they put a coolant up to the drill and then the adapter goes on the load. So the coolant goes right to the tip and have to push the swarf out to reach the tip drill. But we're still a bit backward here, so we never got one of those this week. A little bit deeper, and I'm going to have to pull it out, fiddle with it, what's the Right. Before we part it off, I just want to deburr the hole so you can't see. Come up somewhere in there. And we literally just give it a tickle and it deburrs it. Marvellous, just like that. Right, we now need parting off tool. And we're going to do 22 mil, we said. I'm probably going to need a bit more out of the chuck than that, so we're going a lot slower as well. People part off at high speed and wonder why they break the tips. Don't do it. Slow down. Somewhere there. Right. Just push that out of the way there. At the top. Let's see where we're at. Oh wow, that's pretty good guess. Man, I'm good. Wait, you go a little bit more. It doesn't have to be this accurate, but you know. There you go. It's a lawnmower, remember. Right, need a bit of coolant on here because I don't want the tip overheating or breaking off. We just got to deburr that end and take the swarf off for that one. The little burr that's on the shoulders there. That was easy, wasn't it? Little do for going, stick it in now. The gear. in. That's all I need, just had a burr off. And I'll do what I'm not meant to do. Just like that. That should be the same as that. Yeah, no, I'm good. Right. And that is what will get pressed into there with some Loctite on it, just for the same, so I come up through, and then I'll make a cap, and we'll show you how to make a cap shortly. Right. Just a little bit of Loctite on here. This isn't stuff that sets like concrete, and you can never get it apart. It's just a bit of a extra, because this is an interference fit. So we'll stick that on there like that. Hopefully the socket underneath, which this should go through. Oh, socket's in the way, I think, yeah. Not quite. I keep putting the socket in the wrong place because I want to support it there on the bearing face. There we go. That's it. The excess off. Right, now we need a cap to go on there with some screws to hold it together. Right, all done, fitted back on the deck. There we go. There's the cap, bearing side. This bit slides backwards and forwards on the spring to keep the belt tension between the three blades. Without that, you can't use it, and you can't. I think you can get these in the States, but the cost of shipping them over, if you find one, is prohibited. So it's cheaper to do it this way. And obviously, once we've done this, we can always replace the bearing again in the future. But that's lasted 40 years, so it probably lasts another 40 years. So that's how to do it. So scrapping your machine, and these old machines are very well worth keeping alive, I reckon, because they're so well built.